Honestly, I was nervous for the families. They were coming to an area that they do not know with people who do not speak their language. And so we wanted to make sure that we could do the best for them while they were here. So then there's that hope and that excitement that we are able to make the transition as comfortable and as easy as possible for them.
We didn't get a lot of information as far as what kind of clinical state the patients were in. So when you take oncology and cancer treatment, and not have any information about where they, we're used to a huge medical record coming in with these patients. And so just that unknown of what is it like where they're living on a normal state, and then what is it like in this war state.
Just for me, just looking at the news coverage, it was a very bad situation. And just knowing that there were a lot of kids and families that were affected, just kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit more. So I was very, I guess my word would be kind of anxious, as just what's kind of state they will be in when, with all of this going on.
I was very anxious as well. Some of the charts that arrived were very limited with information, so you really didn't know truly what to expect, based off of like a one sheet of paper, like, and a lot of it being in, the Ukraine language. So you just had to kind of just, anticipate, the worst, in order to prepare for the best outcome.
I know they were very intentional about trying to have a nurse from every clinic that for whichever diagnosis was coming. And also just, I feel like for me as a nurse, I feel like I'm always prepared for the unknown, because nursing is just that way sometimes. You just come to work and it's usually not going to go the way that you expected it to. And so I think just being a nurse at baseline, you're just prepared for whatever may come. St. Jude was very intentional about having supportive staff here, the social workers, child life, chaplain even, nutritional services, to make sure that everybody was on board to best support the families for their comfort. Interpreter services was a big one for me as a nurse, because I'm trying to communicate with the patient and the huge language barrier. But having that interpreter face-to-face makes a big difference from having an interpreter on our interpreter video, because when you're trying to communicate with the patient, that also just makes things easier, and it makes them more comfortable to know that I'm trying to communicate with you and not just going to try to just get through it without communicating with you with an interpreter.
I think it took the stress off of us and allowed the families to have everything they needed at their fingertips right when they arrived, versus us calling and trying to coordinate all of that. Mm-hmm. They did a really great job, the institution did, of making sure that was all available.
With the younger patients, we tried to keep them in their most comfortable state, and for the most part that was with their parents in their lap, keeping the families together. We didn't want to separate them in the rooms. We tried to do what we could while respecting their boundaries.
That first round, Brittany and I in one room completely teared up.
Yes.
I mean, there was no way not to show that emotion. And I think sometimes that's okay, because you're bonding with the family over that human emotion.
I feel like you have to bring the emotional side into it. We would not create the bonds that we have here if we weren't emotional people and, didn't cry with them at times.
Yeah. I think we rely on each other. Sometimes we get in trouble for the amount that we rely on each other because of the conversations that we have. But just being able to kind of talk through it and know that you're not going through it alone. It's hard because we're often told, you're supposed to keep your work and emotion out of it, but you can't. There's just no way when you're given so much.
I have about a 45 minute drive home, just that quietness. You just kind of reflect back. And I felt really saddened for them because the importance of it then did hit. These families have left their home, their loved ones. They could only come with a select belongings. So realizing that we were able to be a part of that to help comfort them made me feel very much more relieved that we were able to provide some security for them.
I was surprised, even though after working with kids so long, I shouldn't be shocked by this. But that they were so resilient. Like that they came in from a whole different country with a language barrier, and they adapted, and the families have adapted. And that is credit to them, as well as I think the processes we put in place for that transition to be kind of seamless as best we could. But yeah, their resilience was very inspiring given the situations that they were coming from.
They were happy to see us. They run in the clinic. Even though there's still a language barrier, they still they speak in their language as if we understand, and we speak back to them. So it has that, we both smile at each other. So it's very different, and you can tell they're a lot more comfortable with being here.
Why you got into this, remember why it brings you joy, remember why it brings you happiness. Just always remember your why, because in tough moments you might have to step back and say to yourself, why do I do this? And that'll help you continue on.